All right, what's up, everybody? I hope you're all having a great day today because I am here to give you the verdict on Obsidian Entertainment's Avowed. So, if you're a chronically online Twitter user like myself, the general opinion about Avowed would have you believing it's more ass than Alexis Texas herself. So, I'm here to set the record straight, man. Is this game as bad as they say, or was I pleasantly surprised? So the short answer to this is, I mean, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, but I have a feeling that I wasn't holding the game to the standards that a lot of other people were holding. If you had an incredibly high standard for what you thought Avowed was going to be, you probably won't have as positive of an opinion that I do, because I simply just didn't have a crazy high expectation for Avowed. Now, my expectations for Avowed originally, when they first showed that teaser little cinematic trailer, they were really high. I thought it looked insane. I was hyped as hell. I was like, oh, okay, Obsidian's going to make a Skyrim. Like, this is probably going to be insane, right? If they keep the aesthetics to how they did in that original trailer. However, when they showed the first gameplay, it was clearly evident that it was a lot different than what I assumed it was going to be. And yeah, I was a little disappointed in that decision, but I kind of tempered my expectations from there. So I wasn't really expecting like a Skyrim level hit. You know, my expectations were a lot lower than they had been in the past. So, with all that being said, yeah, I actually was pleasantly surprised with the amount of enjoyment I've gotten out of the game so far, about 25 hours in. But I do not blame anyone who isn't enjoying the game as much because it definitely has its flaws. It is not a perfect game. It wouldn't be in any top 10 list. There's not an argument really you can make for this game being like a game of the year contender even or anything like that. It's not even close, especially with KCD2 coming out this year. Easy game of the year in my opinion. But I do think it is a good game, and I think the hate it's gotten is a little bit overblown, and I'm going to tell you why. If you want to hear about the negative stuff, which I know everyone's probably here for, everyone loves negativity, and I do go on a little bit of a rant about the game, you can go skip to around the 740 mark if you just want to purely hear the negative parts about this game. So I want to start with the positives here. You know, I like starting with the positives when it comes to reviews, and for Avowed, in my opinion, by far the most impressive thing about the game is its graphics and its visuals. Dude, this game has some of the most beautiful graphics I've ever seen. Even with the art style that they decided to go with, less realistic, it just looks fucking flawless, man. There's certain points in the game where I was genuinely like shocked and just taking in the scenery. Like some of these moments had me breaking out into LeBron's song, man. Yeah, they got Luka Don, A. Reeves, and then LeBron. The real big three. Alright, anyway. So, you know, for a game that like didn't have a AAA budget, you know, for it to have AAA graphics is like a huge W in my opinion. I'm genuinely shocked that they managed to make this game look this good. It's so pretty. It's up there with probably the most visually pleasing games that I've played. You know, it's up there with like the Red Dead Redemption 2s of the gaming world. I don't think anyone would really argue that either. It's definitely one of the biggest upsides to Avowed and really complements what the game has to offer, man. All right, so now that I'm done glazing the graphics, I think we can get into the real meat of this game. Pause. Which is, of course, its game design and its map design. I'm going to kind of combine these two because I think they kind of go hand in hand. Two things I think this game does incredibly well is its map design in terms of exploration and traversal, and the traversal mechanics as well. You don't really see often RPGs like this, fantasy RPGs, have a real element of verticality that, you know, Avowed really seems to try and focus on. If you didn't know, Avowed has kind of like a climbing mechanic. I don't want to say it's parkour because it's not really parkour. It's very simplistic in its design, but I think that's a good thing because it makes vertical exploration very easy. And I think it was honestly just a genius decision from the developers to implement this type of exploration in the game because it makes it 100% more fun to go search and find things. You know, usually you're used to other games like, you know, The Witcher or Skyrim, in which you're completely grounded almost. There's really no sense of verticality at all. In this game, that's complete opposite. Not only is there, you know, and this is also a compliment on the map design, but there's a ton of points of interest in this game. Exploration is never boring. Everywhere you go, there's usually something to find. And of course, not every point of interest is going to have some insane level of detail to it, but that's not really important because the important thing is that you're actually just having fun getting there. And the climbing mechanic and the vertical exploration really helps in that department and makes everything you do really that much more enjoyable. When the news first came out that this game wasn't going to be like a fully open world and was more going to be like a segmented open world like Outer Worlds was, obviously Obsidian made Outer Worlds, so it makes sense that it kind of followed the same kind of design choice. But a lot of people were upset at this because, they were so stuck on that idea that they were going to get like, Obsidian's version of Skyrim. But I think the fact that they went this route actually helped a lot in terms of the exploration because having a more condensed area, and these areas are still big. Like, the thing is, I was honestly very surprised with how big these areas are. There's a ton of things to explore. But the good thing is that due to that decision, it doesn't feel like any space is wasted. There's no massive areas of just barren wasteland where you're just kind of just roaming around doing a walking simulator. There's always things around, and I think that's a very, very important thing to remember when you're playing Avowed or when you're playing games like this, which might not have the level of detail of other RPGs that are AAA. This game just does what it came to do, and it does it very well, in my opinion. All right, so the last purely positive thing I really want to talk about is, and I know some people might disagree, I don't know why, but it's the combat. I think the combat in Avowed is incredibly well done. It has a sense of freedom that you don't get in a lot of games. I love the ability that you could alternate. You have a first loadout and you have an alternate loadout. I like that you could combine any set of combat mechanics that you want. If you want to be a dual pistol, you could do a pistol. You can do a pistol and a grimoire. You could do a pistol and a wand. You could do a sword and a wand, a shield and a wand, a dagger and a pistol. The options are endless, and I think that's something that a lot of RPGs don't really have nowadays. You don't really get that sense of freedom. Usually it's like, okay, sword and shield, axe and shield, just an axe, just a sword. You don't have a lot of options and a lot of freedom, in which I feel like Avowed you do have that type of stuff. And what I think Avowed really does right in terms of these combinations and this combat system is that all of these options are viable in game. There isn't really a meta. They don't clearly pick favoritism towards, a sword and shield or a wand and a sword. Everything pretty much is viable in this game. You can get through the game doing any combination you like, and that's the epitome of an RPG, giving you the option and the freedom to play how you want to play, and you are not handcuffed in any way when it comes to that. And that's just something Avowed does incredibly well, and you got to give props. All right, now that is it for the purely positive stuff. So now I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about things that I didn't think was done as best as it could have been. And I'm not going to be here nitpicky like you see online, like, oh, I can't kill this boar. What kind of shit game doesn't let me kill wildlife? That's obviously a design choice and not, a capabilities thing. Of course, they could have made that possible if they wanted. I saw that complaint online, like, oh, this is unacceptable. I should be able to kill wildlife. This is an RPG. The whole point is you're there as, like in the story at least, you're there as an envoy. And you're supposed to be healing nature. So obviously killing living things would kind of be contrary to that. And I know the argument of, oh, but it's an RPG, but clearly they had a narrative choice to make this a thing in the game. Now there are some other things I saw online which I do think are valid complaints. Like the fact that the NPCs in the cities and stuff, they just don't move. I think this is super weird and jarring when you're actually playing the game. This is a very valid criticism. When you're walking around and, no one's moving, like some of them talk and they're having, their scripted interactions, but there's no sense of like, what's the word? Like simulation, like a game like KCD2 has. And of course, I don't need this game to be KCD2 and I still enjoy it. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy it because I don't expect that of it. But I will say it is a little bit jarring and it is a bit disappointing that they don't even have that level of like NPC movement. They're all just standing in the same spot. Games like Skyrim back in the day had this type of details in the game. Everyone has a route. In Avowed, no one has a route. They're all just exactly where they are at all times. No one really moves. And it's a little bit crazy. And I do see that as a valid criticism of the game. Does this completely ruin the game for me? No, I'm a normal person. So, a little detail like that isn't going to absolutely ruin my experience. It's not the end of the world like the internet would have you believe, but it is something that obviously they could have done better with. And I think that's not a design choice. That's honestly just either incompetence or laziness. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty fucking retarded. Anyways, we could move on. Another thing that I thought probably could have been done a little bit better was the character creation. I'm not going to talk about the customization of like the way the armor looks and stuff because I think that's all done pretty good. It's fine. But the character creation kind of left a lot to be desired. I feel like they could have given you a lot more freedom and a lot more tools in order to make the guy or your girl look exactly how you want them to look. And I just feel like it was lacking in that department. So I would just say that's something that they could have done better. Not necessarily bad, but not good either. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which I do think definitely could use work, was, the quest design. Not necessarily the story, because I think the story quests were actually done pretty well. I'm enjoying the story so far, and I think the story quest lines are solid. Solid enough. There's a lot of variation. There's a lot of mystery involved, which I often like with RPGs. But in terms of the side quest design, I just don't feel like there was a lot of effort with that. A lot of these are very, run of the mill side quests, fetch quests, or go look for this guy here, or this guy's lost, go help him. There's not a whole bunch of variety and detail in the side quests that you would get from other games like, The Witcher or something like that, or Cyberpunk, which, is not the worst thing ever because I know that Obsidian is obviously more constrained with resources compared to these other big studios. But, that's probably something that could have been done a little bit better and something that I wish was done a bit better because it would have obviously tied the game more up as a whole and would have been a more complete experience. That said, that's probably it for in terms of negatives. The game is extremely polished, so there's no bugs or anything like that, and at least none that I've experienced personally. Um, you know, the only other thing I could really say, there could have been some more physics involved in the game. There's really no physics in terms of like objects around, like Bethesda physics with objects and stuff. They're really good at that. Not really that here, but I digress. Anyway, man, what would I give Avowed out of 10? Probably, honestly, maybe a 6.5, a 7. And to me, that's not bad. For me, if a game's bad, it has to be below a 5. Below a 5 is bad. Above a 5 is okay. Above an 8 is a great game. And I would say Avowed is just in between that area of okay and good. It's good, in my opinion. Would I spend $70 on this game? Fucking hell no. This is definitely more of a $40 game. If you have Game Pass, it's a no-brainer, obviously, because it's free. You're definitely going to get a good enjoyment out of it if you get it on Game Pass. But would I spend full price? Absolutely not. But I don't want to shit on the game that much because I actually am enjoying my time with it. I just don't think it's really fair for that price tag, and I think most people would acknowledge that. But yeah, man, if you enjoyed this review, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.